getting severely sick in India and the years following that trip to India. So truly thought I was dying. I had this feeling of terror. I had this feeling and I would swallow it down, like, stop doing that. Like, you're just kind of like, you're just nervous to go to a country that you've never been to before. Got back to America, promptly fell even more ill about 3 weeks after that. To the point where it was like my body was shutting down. So I fell into a pit of despair and I hit this wall where I was like, okay, I think I'm one of those people that catches a mysterious illness and just dies. So either I choose to give up and waste away painfully and excruciatingly, or I figure it out. Because I had this knowing, like, I only have a few years. I'm not going to be able to withstand this. And then I ended up choosing the latter. And I kind of like snapped into this gear of like, okay, I'm going to become obsessive about saving my own life.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to my podcast, BENU Rising, Stories of Death and Rebirth. And today we're talking with Maurice Sinclair from Ancient Made Modern. And Maurice is a psychic medium, a Reiki Master. He's doing psychic readings, mediumship readings. He's accessing the Akashic records. He's doing shamanic journeys and healing journeys and like tons of stuff. And also mentorship for mediumship. And that's also how I got to know him, through the mediumship circle that I've been actually quite regularly attending since like about a year. And that's kind of like what he's doing. He will also have the chance to add to that, to introduce himself in a second. And today we are going to talk about his dark night of the soul, his spiritual awakening. And he will tell us about his journey, his personal journey, and hopefully inspire us and give us some guidance also and insights that will help those who are in need of it. So welcome, Maurice. I'm very glad that you're here today in the third episode of the podcast. And do you want to add anything? Did I forget something?
I don't think you did, actually. I think you covered everything. I was like, oh, well, I don't think I have to even jump in. Yeah, you covered it. So yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that awesome intro.
Good. All right. So let's just jump right in then. So like I mean, I have like a few questions, but the biggest question is actually like really just like, what was your dark night of the soul? I know Maurice, we've also been working together we are also working together in a trance circle with another friend of ours. And so like we know each other already a bit, but there are still so like I don't know his complete personal story, so I'm also curious. And I know a few things, but so what was like the biggest turning point also in your life, or what led you on to the spiritual path?
So for me, that would definitely, because there's a few of them, I'm sure with everybody, but for me, I think the most prominent one would be getting severely sick in India and the years following that trip to India. So just kind of brief overview of that, because I'll try and be as concise as possible. Back in 2014, I was sent to India to help start a call center for the company that I was working for. So, you call like a cable company or something, and then like they might outsource the phone calls to another country to like handle the call volume. And while I was there, I got severely sick because no one told me that when you're kind of an American in India, that you are very susceptible to digestive issues, just put it that way. When it comes to like the water or some of the food, or even the food that's washed in the water. So I got severely ill and truly thought I was dying. And so I guess I should have mentioned this too. So prior to the trip, I had this feeling of terror. I thought it was my great grandmother, because I told my great grandmother I was going to India, and she's like, no, 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 don't go, don't go. And I thought that was her kind of projecting her like fear of me traveling so far.
Wow.
But I had this terror, this feeling that was creeping up on me. This is well prior to anything spiritual or anything like that. But I had this feeling like, am I gonna die? I had this feeling, and I would swallow it down, like, stop doing that. Like, you're just kind of like, you're just nervous to go to a country that you've never been to before. And so on the plane there, I remember my right hand went numb, like with the half of my right hand went numb, and I was like, oh no, it's happening. It's happening. And like, so I'm like trying to get the attendant's attention, like, please, I think something's happening.
Oh my God. Okay. Wow.
But nothing happened. I just eventually went away, and I landed in India like, oh, okay, I guess I'm fine. But then when I got sick in India, this is like maybe like the third day or something, and I think it was, I was there for I think like 10 days. I was like, oh, it's happening. It's happening. I'm dying. It felt like I was getting stabbed in the solar plexus.
Wow.
This is the best way I can describe it. Like right in that center area, it felt like someone like put a knife in there or just turned.
Wow.
And like throwing up, and like at both ends, it was real bad. And I was real scared. I called up my family, like, hey, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I just gotta let you know. Anyway, fast forward, the office manager in India came over with his wife, gave me some like digestive food to help me, brought me to the doctor the next day. They gave me a bunch of antibiotics. I was sturdy enough to work the trip again. Like, I didn't feel actually ill, but I was sturdy enough to work the trip again. Got back to America, quit that job, and promptly fell even more ill about 3 weeks after that. To the point where it was like my body was shutting down. It was like I had like 13 different illnesses. Like, no, like, and again, fast forwarding, I went to like 6 different doctors. None of them could figure it out. Even an infectious disease specialist, all they could tell me was that they did like 12 different tests: blood, urine, feces, everything. All they could tell me is that my white blood cell count was very high, which meant I was fighting something, which meant that they couldn't treat me for anything because they couldn't find anything, not legally. So I fell into a pit of despair. To this day, I don't really know how long that despair was. It was kind of like outside of time. And I hit this wall where I was like, okay, I think I'm one of those people that catches a mysterious illness and just dies. I think maybe I'm just one of those people. And I hit this point where I was like, okay, so either I choose to give up and waste away painfully and excruciatingly, maybe over the course of like 4 or 5 years, or I figure it out. Because I had this knowing, like, I only have a few years. I'm not going to be able to withstand this. And then I ended up choosing the latter, and I kind of like snapped into this gear of like, okay, I'm going to become obsessive about saving my own life. And so I had to, so I started researching this wildly books, internet, of different periodicals and things. And like I discovered ayurveda, or ayurveda, I'm not pronouncing it right, ayurveda. And,
I'm German, so I wouldn't know.
Anyone listen to this, I'm gonna be like, what? What's wrong with him? He studied what? And in traditional Chinese medicine. And it was through these modalities that I really I healed myself. You know, I kind of found the ways to balance my body out. I realized that what happened was I got really sick. The initial illness kind of injured my internal like a microbiome, like my good bad bacteria balance in my gut. And your gut is like 80% of your immune system. So this left me wide open to everything. And then I dropped the atom bombs of the antibiotics in the body, which just destroyed everything, which left me extremely susceptible. So not only did I turn to these modalities, I also stripped of everything. So at this point, I stopped drinking alcohol. Still don't drink alcohol. I stopped taking any over-the-counter meds. Stopped eating any artificial foods, colorings, chemicals. And it was through this process, I believe, that the spiritual journey, the spiritual awakening really began, because it was as if that like I was physically aiding my body to like shed all the outside layers that were blocking me from being able to access this part of myself.
It's super cleansing.
extremely clean. It was like I was like a newborn baby. You know what I mean? Like I like reset myself. And I think this had a really profound effect on my spirituality, because not only did I become extremely sensitive to foods, because that's a whole nother aspect of this illness that I had back then, is because I couldn't eat foods. Like I'd eat foods and my body would just instantly react to foods I've been eating all my life.
Foods
That
or
now would cause
fruits?
foods. Well, I mean,
Food. Okay. Yeah.
some
Okay.
fruits, but like
Okay.
foods in general. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
They were, so for example, like nuts. I still can't really eat a lot of nuts, but like nuts, when I'd eat them, they'd make my gums like swell up and like bleed, and it was like
Oh my
just an
goodness.
example,
Okay.
you know,
Wow.
like
Yeah.
yeah, like different things would cause different skin lesions and things, just randomly. It was like I was allergic to everything. But like along with that came sensitivity to the non-physical. So now I was extremely sensitive to not just foods, but like energies. I could feel the energy of food before I ate it. Like I'd be like, okay, no, I can't eat
Wow.
this actually, because I can feel from the outside that and this translated to now people. This translated to now animals. This translated to now just
Wow.
rooms. And so like, so as this awareness began to increase over the years, I was like, okay, well, something's happening. So then after, so about 2.5 years pass, and I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I can stand up for more than 30 minutes. I can walk upstairs. I'm
Wow.
getting
Was it
my
it was that heavy? So you were not able to do that before?
no. So there's a point where
Wow.
like
Okay.
I couldn't like stay standing up for more than 30 minutes at a time before getting extremely exhausted. Yeah, like I dropped down to like, it was like 107 or something pounds or something ridiculous.
Okay.
And I So 2.5 years passes, and I get to this point where I'm like, okay, I'm feeling healthy. Like I'm on the up and up. Like I think I'm just now, after 2.5 years of trial and error, trying to save my own life, I think I figured it out, or I've begun to figure it out. I start to taper off. And it was around this time that people start, well, not really around this time, but even prior to that point, people would kind of like, out of like random mouths would be like, you know what, that sounds kind of like shamanic, or like it reminds me of like shaman. And like I didn't know that word, I didn't really understand it, but like the more it came through like 10 different mouths, and it just kept hitting me over the head, to the point where like at the end I was like,
Pretty clear sign to look
let me
into
like
it.
to look into it. I was like, okay, like let me see what this is about. So this was shamanism and like shamanic journeying, for example, was really the first spiritual practice that I like actively dove into. Like I actively tried to understand, because it just I kept getting these signs from the outside. And so I started. I read like 5 or whatever, like books on shamanism, and then I started doing shamanic journeys for myself. Never intended to do it for anybody else. It's purely self-development, and purely just to see what would happen. And it's extremely profound experiences doing shamanic journey. That must have been like 2016 that I started doing that.
How old
And
were you?
so 2016, between 26 and 27
Okay.
years old. Yeah. 24 was when I got sick, age
Oh,
24.
27 yet. Okay. Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
A long,
And
long dark night.
oh yeah. It's lasted a while, and it's carried over even into like recent years. So it's just like it hasn't really been. It's only like in very recent days that it seems to be like, oh, am I out of the cloud now? Am I out of the
Yeah.
storm finally?
I see the light. Oh no, it wasn't the light.
Right. It was a very
Not
like
yet.
brief break in like the tunnel, and then I'm right back in the tunnel again. Like, oh, it's dark again.
Yeah.
So shamanism was my first kind of foray into spirituality and spiritual work, and it really gave me like an interesting framework about like the natural rhythms of the world, and how energy moves and things. And I think that really, and then the thing about shamanic journey is that like for me, it was always a very immersive experience. It was kind of like augmented reality. And I know that built the way that I experience all of my other spiritual practices now. That became the framework. So like oftentimes, even when I'm doing
Yeah.
mediumship or psychic work, it's very cinematic.
Yeah.
There's a beginning, middle, and end. And I know that came from starting with shamanic journey. So it was a really important starting point for me. But then in 2000, I think it was also 2016, actually, like towards the end of 2016, my great grandmother, who was like my mother essentially, died. And that like shattered my whole reality, you know. And I just remember sitting at the dining room table just weeping, just like sobbing, and like calling out her name. And then I began to feel this warmth. I've told the story on a few different places. Like I began to feel this warmth in the center of my chest that like started at the center and just expanded outwards. And I just had this knowing. I was like, that's her. And this was the first time that it occurred to me, like, oh, there actually is contact with like people who passed away after they passed away. Like this is the first time that it, like, you know, conceptually, but this is the first time that I like had experienced it firsthand. And it was almost like a trance-like state. She kind of like took my hands and like opened the computer, and I just started typing, and then that rabbit hole led me to Reiki. So this is how I discovered Reiki. Yeah. So like I found Reiki. I started to try to do it myself. You know, like and then like
that's how you learn.
This is, yeah, right. Like I was like, I don't need anybody. And I was like looking up all the stuff, all the symbols and things, and like trying and doing and I got to a point eventually where I was like, I think I'm hitting a wall. So I think I'm gonna seek somebody to actually go through the motions, you know, like, and I was like so annoyed at myself. And so like I went and got attuned to Reiki. I did Reiki 1, and then 2 like the month after. And then it wasn't until like a couple years after that, I think 2 years after that that I did the mastery, because I didn't feel like I needed it, but I also wanted to just finish it up, like okay, like put a period at the end of it. And
that's interesting, so that brings us, that you thought that you didn't even want it. That's like, yeah, I just thought that was quite interesting. But well, you didn't needed it. That's what you said, I think.
Yeah, and I'm like of that camp still, like ironically, you know, but like at the time anyway, like it felt like I needed something else, or like a boost or some guidance. And then like even when I'm learning from the teacher, I had to like pretend I didn't know the symbols, and like, oh, is that how you draw it? Like, oh, okay.
You pretended to not know the symbols.
Yeah, oh yeah, because it's like a Reiki rule that you're not supposed to do these things prior. So I was like not trying to disrespect her or whatever. So I'm outing myself now. But yeah, I was like, yeah, okay.
That sounds,
is that how you do
looks interesting. This way, I'm sorry.
Soft the direction. You know, I just, you know, I played it out like I didn't know.
That's so funny.
Just to kind of like stay within like the honor of the Reiki system. And I get it, like I understand it, but I'm also of the camp that like, all these modalities, you know, all these modalities, they all lead to the same thing, and they all come from the same place. And you know, and truthfully, and to say this here, I'm step on some toes, but I don't believe there's like, I'm reluctant to say it, but like even the Reiki symbols, I believe that they are not for whoever it is or whatever it is that you're trying to do or heal. They're for the practitioner, to help the practitioner get past their ego, who is trying to deny that it's happening.
That's so interesting.
Do you know what I mean? Because like I do Reiki, I don't need symbols. Like I don't need symbols. Like, and that's not because I've been attuned, like, because you never needed them. You just get to a point where you come to that understanding within yourself that, oh, I don't need this. I'll still draw them sometimes just to do it, but like I know that I absolutely, like, I can intention is more than enough. And so yeah, anyway, so that leads me to like 2019. So and there's stuff happening. Don't get me wrong, there's stuff happening between these years. I'm just not getting into it. And so that leads me to 2019, and I'm at the point where I've been like doing Reiki for myself, for like my family, some friends here and there, but like really truthfully, it's like myself and my partner at the time. She had pretty severe mental health and even physical stuff that I would just like do for her. Again, never intending to really do it as a career for money or whatever. Like, actually, as a matter of fact, I was at the opposite camp of like, one shouldn't have to pay for these things. This is how what I believed, how I believed back then. And so 2019, I really was like, I got to do something. Like, it's getting out of hand now. Like, I need something to like help me along with this. So what I intended to do was to receive like official shaman training, you know, like the type of like lifelong true shamanic training. And I found a shaman, and I was like, okay, like I'm going to move forward with this. And I remember reaching out to him because I was like, listen, I'm having trouble with this idea of like receiving money for spiritual work. Could you help me with this? And I'll never forget, because like I hold this in my heart till now. He told me that he's like, listen, ancient shaman from ancient times, they were always compensated for their work, because whatever they were doing, it was always for a practical purpose. It wasn't just some woo-woo thing about something that might happen. They would be telling you when to plant your crops, otherwise there's going to be a famine. They'd be telling you that you need to go and find this person now, or they'll be lost. Like they'd be telling you these things that might be pulled from this non-physical space, but apply so directly and profoundly to the physical world that like there had to be an exchange for it to be sustainable.
Also part of communities they were like kind of like like a part of a community, so they had like a specific role within this community, and so therefore they were compensated. I guess, I mean, that's how I understood it. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were part of the village, like, like the ancient shaman were like the precursor to all modern day doctors, psychologists. Like this is what this is based off of. This old idea of this person, this medicine person that was in the room, woman or man, that would do these things for people. And so thus they were always compensated. And he's like, it's the same thing. You do this for free, just of the own goodness of your heart. You will inevitably always deplete yourself. You will never be able, you'll never have enough.
Sorry, it's like listening to your things that I already made so many mental notes, like, I have to go back and listen to that again, like, because there's so many things that you're sharing right now. And I mean, we talked about a few things, but so many things that are relevant for me right now. It's so thank you.
You're welcome. Because this is what, like, I feel like I just flow. Like I'm trying to also keep it concise, but also just flow. Because I think there's things in every little. From that it just clicked. Like I was like, oh, okay. And shortly after that, and this is all during this time. So this is 2019. We're pretty much like the entire year 2019, or maybe like halfway through it. I was like, okay. So the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to seek out like a psychic development circle. Like I'm gonna find. So I literally went on Google's like psychic development circle, and I found a few, and the only one that fit into my schedule was one that was online. I was working at a strip club at that time for 2.5 years. Yeah, like behind the bar. Yeah.
Never talked about that.
yeah. That was also a very interesting and important holy and sacred training ground for me. Like I needed that. I'd never even been to a strip club before working there for 2.5 years. That's all another thing. Anyway, so I was working at the club, so like I can only, and during the days, so I couldn't attend the in-person circles, but she had a couple like online circles that I can join. And the only one that fit the schedule was a mediumship circle at the time. Again, didn't really know what mediumship was, but it came up under the psychic umbrella. So I was like, psychic. So I went and contacted her, and I jumped into her circle and like quickly realized what mediumship was. And I was like, oh, interesting, okay, but also realized, oh, I can do this right away. Wow, and this is part of the reason why I'm so passionate about like helping other people connect with their mediumship gifts. Because I'm like, if you have even a slight inkling that you can do it, you can do it. Like just let me show you. Like like. And because I was the same exact way. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I have no idea. Is this no way this is going to work? And it just works, So I surprised myself, kind of blew myself away. And I kind of dove headfirst into that. I was doing those like 4 days a week, just like hitting it over the head. Because I was like, I need this. I feel called to just do as much as I can. And then I hit a point where I was like, I think I need to do this outside of this circle setting for more people that I don't know, more strangers. So this is why I created Ancient Made Modern. Ancient Made Modern was initially created as just an Instagram page, just simply to do free mediumship readings for people, just because I felt like I had to do it. And I did hundreds of readings. Like a lot of them I just did typed. I realized like, oh, I don't even have to talk. I can like type this out. All I got to do is express what's coming through words. I did a lot of voice notes. I did some phone calls. Very few Zooms at the time. I wasn't really comfortable doing Zoom calls. Quickly got over that. And then okay, and now I'm preparing for this shamanic training. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm gonna do it. I got the money. Let's go. COVID happens.
Now we're laughing, right? Back then it was like, oh my god.
Everything was a meltdown. It was crazy, of course, but like the COVID happens. So like at this time I was reaching at the end of the point where at the club where I was like, this is tearing me apart. I'm living double, triple lives. Like I can't do this. Like I'm diving so deeply into my spirituality, but like I'm in like a vampire's den every day. You know, so I'm like getting ripped and I'm like, I can't, like it was becoming too much. So then when 2020 hit, I was like, oh yes, the club is closed. They closed all the strip clubs. Like, no, like, oh, sorry. Oh,
what a blessing.
Oh, damn, it's getting shut down. That is terrible. That is terrible. You know, like, so it's like perfect, you know, so like that happened. And just a quick aside, like I started working at the club while I was also working at a nursing home as a cook.
Okay, what?
So
Goodness gracious! Oh my goodness!
Can you imagine like the dichotomy between the two? Like I was like, even that I was like, I gotta quit this.
Super different energies, and also both probably quite challenging in their own ways. So, oh God, I mean, a lot of heavy energy, I guess. I suppose.
So much, like it's so intensely, incredibly heavy. I'd even argue that it's even heavier like at the nursing home, honestly, you know. But still, like those two, like I'd work there, like, and like some days I'd like drive from there to the club. Like it was way too much. And so I eventually, you know, actually the reason why I stopped, like the universe gave me a reason. My car, my like beloved car back then broke down. And I was like, I can't get out to the nursing home, but there is a bus that goes directly to the club, and the club is paying me cash and more money.
Like, you know, like someone like trying to make it work with because they want to go to the club. There's a bus going to the club. Hello, I had to check. It was just too easy.
It's too easy. All I got to do is walk like a it was probably like a 3/4 of a mile or something from like my apartment at the time to the bus stop. Which oftentimes was a sprint and like a full-on sprint because I was late for getting out the door. So I'm sure people got used to me for those years, like just seeing me sprint down the, you know, like literally, like
going to the club.
That I would get, he's going to the club. Like catch a coach bus from like over around the corner to like it was like 4 or 5 towns over to the club, and then back at night. Like I was so like out like. Come to think of it, I was probably in like at least my heart was in excellent shape because like not only was I running there to the bus, but also my work consisted of me running back and forth all day. You know, like constantly moving, and then like I was a bar back, so like I would like lift like all the alcohols and things, and like I'd handle the deliveries and like rearrange the entire fridges and then like all that stuff too. So that was just I'll go into that probably another time. Like that was an interesting experience working there for a while. Anyway, so so that brings us to 2020, and I'm like, all right, well, like I guess the club is done. I guess I'll go back to cooking now, because cooking for me, that was what I thought was my number one profession. I've been cooking my entire life.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay. That's really interesting because like with this turn of events, like when you probably like changed your cooking pattern, I suppose, when you got sick, but like really probably have like a lot of knowledge in that area then I guess.
Incidentally, yeah. I guess I've been cooking professionally since 18, and then like on and off because I had a true love-hate relationship with cooking, and I don't think it was cooking. It was, now looking back, it was restaurant work. You know, it was like working like on like a line and stuff. But I had a true love-hate relationship with it. Also, the first years that I was a cook, I worked for my dad. So like there's that too. So like you know, so yeah, he was my boss. So like at a country club, like at a golf club.
Interesting.
So yeah, all these,
I did all of these things. I had no clue.
Yeah, because it's like, well, why would they even come up usually? You know, there's all these like little intricacies. But yeah, my dad was a food and beverage manager at 2 separate country clubs that I worked at different times. I worked at one for 4 years, And then I was like, yeah, screw this. So like I went to go do like office work, and this is when I went to like work at the. So I worked just real briefly. I worked for the Nigerian Immigration Service. So it was a
Oh.
company. It was a company that was contracted by the Nigerian Immigration Service to host a platform that allowed people to pay for their travel documents to go to Nigeria or to renew their Nigerian passports. So
Okay.
anyone who's going to Nigeria, like which is a surprising amount of people. Like it's actually an incredible amount of people. That I was like, whoa, I thought it might just be a few people. No, it was like thousands of people a day.
Wow. Okay.
So like I was hired to do customer service by this kind of truly a startup company. It was like when he started, it was like 4 employees or something. He was a millionaire, but like he was saving, I'm sure, a ton of money on like the tiny office space and paying his employees nothing.
Oh God.
I was making like he was like he sat me down. I remember I just he sat me down and he was like, "So how much do you feel like you want to be paid?" And I literally was like, I was like, okay, I was a cook. I was getting paid like $12 an hour or something. And I was like, oh, well, it has to be more than that. I was like, $12.50. And he was like,
cute.
Okay. Sure. I can do that. And at the time, so naive. Like I just didn't know. I had no idea. And I could totally understand myself. And so I was getting paid, $12.50 an hour doing this customer service work. So people would call from all over the world, China, Australia, Germany, everywhere. But like, and we'll call in. Mind you, there's like 2 people on the phones. You can never get through all of the calls. Never, yeah. Nor the emails, because you also had to answer emails. So you just had to do as many as you could. And people would call to troubleshoot making their payments or how to access the website or even like refunds, things like that. So that was my job. That was my main job. I was hired as customer service. The owner of the company, he would come in, like he wasn't there every day, but he'd come in, rich Nigerian dude. Like he was like Nigerian, but also like wealthy. I didn't really believe that he was wealthy because it's just the nature of like the office and stuff at the time. But like one day he was like, "Hey, would you be interested in traveling?" I was like, "Yes, I would be interested in traveling. I would actually. Yeah. Where are we going?" And he was like, "Well, actually, I have a meeting in England, and I'd like you to come and just take notes or take minutes." He called them. I didn't know what minutes were at the time, but notes. And I was like, "Sure, okay." And so he flew me to England, like on my own flight separately, whatever. But put me up in this like real nice hotel, and like paid for everything, paid for the hotel, paid for the food, gave me like a food allowance, so like just a straight up allowance, it's like money, stipend, I guess you call it. And I was like, I'm living life. Like, oh, I guess I made it. Like, okay. And then yes. So like this was like, I think it was like maybe like a whole day of just me being able to just be like, I'm chilling. I'm gonna walk around England. I'm gonna buy food. I'm gonna hang out by myself. I'm gonna not be a tourist. I'm an Englishman for this time period. So like I was walking around and just enjoying myself. And I think it was like the day after was the actual meeting. So like, like he's like, bring a suit, blah, blah, blah. So like I suited up, whatever. And I was still like, yeah, whatever. We'll see what this so-called meeting is about. So we go to this meeting and like, there's like 10 investors trying to like pitch him ideas for him to invest in their companies. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I guess he is wealthy. I guess he does have it. Yeah, I guess he is rich. There's people all over the world that are pitching him like for like biotech. I don't even remember but like I was like this stuff that my mind. I was like, I don't even know what's happening here. But I'm gonna try to take notes like you told me to. The point wasn't even like he didn't need notes. I think he just really wanted to show me that it was real. Yeah, and that there's like a tactic. So I was like, cool, all right. So like I get right back to customer service. So like majority of the time I spent just doing customer service, like just like on the computers and stuff. But then over time, like he keeps sending me to places. So like I had to go to different places around the US to like deliver travel documents and so I had some really cool experiences. He sent me to China for a month. That was really cool.
Wow.
And England a couple times to like do like other stuff, like to start other like processing centers for people, because like it became an issue because what the company did was they hosted the platform for people to like what was happening in the Nigerian embassies all over the world is that like there's a lot of corruption. So like the people would go to pay for the documents and they'd be like, well, you got to pay me double. if you're trying to get it, you know what I mean? Like kind of like hustling people out of money. So like in order to solve for that, they created this online platform. People had to go and like use a card to pay that way, or send money orders into our company. Does that make sense? And process it that way. So, but like that became an issue for a lot of people because not everybody had cars, not everybody had computers. So like he started sending me over to start these centers, payment processing centers, where people could actually walk in that were like close in proximity to the embassies, walk in, get the documents, take that to the embassy rather than having to go through any money stuff at the embassy. And so yeah, so he sent me to England to do that, sent me to China to do that. China was there. I was there for like a while. That was really, really cool, really fun. But the last trip he sent me on was to India. And this trip was a little bit different because he sent me to start a call center. Because it's like, there's 3 employees. Like, we need people to answer the phones. There's thousands of people trying to do this today. So like, he sent me to go train the people on how to use the software, talk tracks, and all that stuff. Mind you, I'm 26 years old, had zero training on this stuff. I had no idea. He just threw me in. This is his style. He just be like, just do it, get it done. And I did it, and I got it done. You know, I guess he probably maybe saw that in me too, that like I just had the capability to just like snap into it, whatever it was. And I created a like a, not just itinerary, like a, what do you call it? Like a, not syllabus, but like curriculum. Like I created I sat down and just did that, like on the plane and everything. I did all this stuff, and then like taught them how to all do that stuff. Then I get sick, and then all that stuff happened. So yeah, this is an aside for that. Anyway, so now back to 2020, and so I got.
Can I ask like one question, or like I would like, because you went back to India, and I was like, I mean like in your speech, so.
It's so much. I'm trying to fit it all in.
Yeah, it is. But I wanted to, because when you were talking about it earlier, I thought they were like, it was quite interesting what you said. First of all, regarding the topic of the podcast, like death and rebirth, you said like you had this fear of actually dying, which in a sense, I guess happened, like in a metaphorical sense. That was actually what was going to happen. And what I also thought was quite interesting was this moment you described when you were on the plane, and you said that your right hand started to feel weird, numb or something. And then you also felt this pitch, like when you got really sick. Then later you felt this knife in the area of your solar plexus. And what I thought like was like the right hand. Oh, I'm sorry, getting notifications. So like the right hand, I mean, there are a lot of things that we can connect with that thematically, but the right hand can speak of the masculine side, right? And like also like the hand is how we do things, like literally, but also also in a metaphorical sense. Is that correct? Metaphorical sense? Yeah. Right. Okay. And the solar plexus is also like speaking about our power and like our willpower and to do things, like also like for me is connected to masculine energy. So I was like, I thought that was quite interesting that it was like that you were like talking about exactly these 2 areas of your body that were like where like fear was connected to, and that of course that also like kind of like led to the opening up of maybe that would be like the question that I'm coming to, like maybe more like the you know like the feminine aspect of your personality, the feminine principle, so to say, like the intuition development opening up, and that would also be my question now. Like, did you have the feeling that before this moment, have you been maybe leaning more into the masculine aspect, or like, you know, like doing, like being more in the maybe even like with a little too much?
No, absolutely. I'm really glad that you brought that up, because first of all, yes, like looking back, absolutely, there's a part of me that absolutely died back then. Like I was perceiving, again, far prior to like anything spiritual or having any awareness of this kind of thing, I was like intuitively perceiving like, oh, I'm about to go through a death. And then like all like, you know, my human self was like, am I gonna die? Like, you know, so it was like that. But like, yes, but prior to that, yes. So I was definitely in the masculine aspect. Like I mean, I guess you could say too far, but like at least like almost entirely in my masculine aspect in every possible way, really. And this whole process really sent me so far inwards into myself to really reconnect, I believe, with that feminine aspect. And it's only really like over the past couple years that now it's like, okay, now take that and take the left and the right, take the masculine and the feminine, and now like work with them in tandem. Like I had been in training, it felt like for like 8 years or whatever, really reconnecting with and coming to an understanding of my feminine aspect and what that means for me as a human, as a man, as a romantic partner, blah blah blah, whatever. Yeah, definitely.
That's very interesting. And there was like, and also like what, I know a bit about that, but do you know what kind of like from which side of your ancestral line you kind of like received those gifts, or do you think it's like evened out like from both sides,
It's both,
or
yeah. It's just no
both?
doubt in my
Okay.
mind. It's definitely both. Both of my parents were always really psychic. It's not as if back then I was like, oh, my parents were psychic. It's only now looking back, I'm like, like that's what that was. Like I'm the way I am because of them, and then their people before them, and their people before them, and so on and so forth. And then even over the recent years, when I brought these things up to my parents, it's not something that we ever talked about. It's not something that ever came up. It was actually something that was really vehemently avoided talking about, like any sort of non-physical experience. But like over the past years where I brought it up to like my mother and father separately, they both had their own take on like, okay, so I've been experiencing these things and I've been thinking that maybe I'm crazy or that like that I just can't talk about. Like they had their own like kind of like spiel to go on about that. And it's like, oh yeah, because you're like me. That's why. You just been kind of running from it and avoiding it. I'm the first person and not probably in a long time to actually dive into it and explore it. The last person I don't know about the maternal family line, but the last person in my paternal family line would have been my great grandfather who would have actively practiced. And I only know that because my grandmother, once I started explaining to her what I'm doing, she was like, well, my grandfather, yeah, I was finding that out, I think was one of the pivotal points that I needed to even get to where I am now, to just let me know that like I'm not weird. And not only am I not weird, I'm more in line and aligned with who my family actually is than any of my actual family right now. So like keep going,
Yeah.
So
wow. And what I also thought was quite interesting. I mean, besides that, I thought everything was quite interesting. No, but it was also like this moment of that you described, that like where you made the decision. Okay, because I had a very similar moment, not with a physical ailment, but I was suffering from depression, and I thought that was quite interesting. And I wonder, like, I guess for everyone who like has this like, that's the moment where it shifts, where it starts to pivot in the other direction. So like this moment, like where we decide, okay, I'm what, I will actually really try everything. I will try everything, like that whatever that means, because usually at that moment when we make this decision, we have no clue what it means, what everything might be. So that's really interesting. Yeah, I would actually be interested maybe in, can you maybe describe, because it sounds quite intense, right? I mean, you've been really physically sick for a long time. Interestingly enough, I feel right now, like since like for 5 minutes now, I feel like pain in my solar plexus area. I'm like,
interesting,
dude, what is happening now? Like really, like I mean, I know this, like it's not unusual for me to perceive something, but that's interesting. So I guess that's also like, like a little note for myself that I can tap into later. But yeah, but now I lost my train of thought. Yeah, like just because I was like also thinking, do you know what it actually was, what that ailment? Because for me it's like all the alarm bells are like screaming parasitic energy, but like, you know, like of some kind. I went to Bali and also brought something back
Mm.
from there. So I would be curious about that if you want to share, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so that was one of the first things that I tested for, because I was like, is there some sort of organism inside me? Completely negative on like multiple parasite
Mhm.
tests. So I mean, good, but also I had nothing to
Yeah, and
like
I
treat.
would say from my perspective, it really depends on what kind of people um you ask.
Mm,
Because I also interesting to now that I'm saying it, I was also like suffering. I looked like I was 5 months pregnant for like three
mm,
years. So, and
mm.
like doctors were like, they were like doing everything like, you don't have anything. I was like, excuse me.
Something's happening. Yeah, something's
That's
happening.
just not normal.
Hmm.
And then I actually at some point I went to a doctor who was like, who knew things, and who also like, he did he diagnosed people with like kinesiology.
Hmm.
So and then and that helped me. I mean, not the kinesiology. What? How do you say
I think
it?
kinesiology. I think.
Kinesiology. So like that, of course, that was like just the test to find out what it was. But he found a couple of things.
Mm.
So, and then he, with his treatment, I actually got better. So that was also interesting for me. That I think often actually it's very hard for our, I don't know why, but it's apparently it's hard for them to find out what is actually there. I don't know. That's my
Yeah,
experience,
because
but
it's Western medicine. Yeah, so the thing for me is that like going to the doctors at that time anyway made me completely give up on Western medicine, which is why I dove into kind of like truthfully Eastern
Mhm.
medicine. So despite them testing and not seeing anything for parasites, I still treated myself for parasites.
Mhm.
Like
Okay.
yeah,
And
like
with the,
just to. Mhm.
sorry, I like through Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic practices. So you
Yeah.
actually really healed yourself in that process. That's
And this is
awesome.
prior to like spiritual work, like I wasn't using Reiki, put energy into my stomach. Like I was
Mm,
just like hitting it over the head with like herbs and like
mm,
and proper eating and awareness of the what type of conditions each food creates in the body when I eat them. Then you know what I mean? Because and balancing for that. So if I'm too heavy or too moist, eating more kind of dry and light foods kind of thing, like or the opposite, kind of like eating for balance.
wow.
And so yeah, so you asked me, so what I understood it to be is that because I destroyed my microbiome,
Mm,
my inner bacterial balancing system, became really imbalanced with bad bacteria, uh, fungi,
mm-hmm.
uh, and just like so like that took over, and the good bacteria that they didn't have enough to like fight that back. 'Cause usually they always kind of exist in tandem, but like when there's not enough good and too much bad, you get a bunch of health issues. And so it was a process of rebalancing that microbiome by kind of aiming at and destroying the bad bacteria, refilling it with good bacteria via probiotics and probiotic foods. And then I also had to go through the process of rebuilding my intestinal lining, because I came to understand that because of being ill, I now had like a permeated intestines, which accounted for the food allergies, because allergies themselves are results of food reaching the like the lower intestine and slipping through the cracks into your bloodstream, and then your body starts to treat it as an invader and it releases
Wow.
histamines and a bunch of other things. So I had to seal that up.
That's
And
interesting.
now I will say like an important part of this, like an essential part of that process of like healing the actual physical gut was the use of cannabis. Like without
Okay,
that,
interesting.
like I wouldn't it,
Interesting.
like I'd be struggling still, and it began because like I was a smoker prior to that, like but like I
Mm-hmm.
realized that after I got sick, every time I smoked, my entire digestive system from like the mouth all the way down would become inflamed. So I couldn't smoke anymore. So like I went
Wow.
through this process of not being able to smoke because like it was hurting me and killing me. So like I was like, okay. And I got to a point in over the course of this process where I was like, if my body doesn't give out, like my mind is gonna give out. Like I like I'm trying to solve for like this intense and extreme depression, these waves of like depression and anxiety, because I'm going through this process all alone. No one can help me. I'm just doing this by myself. You know, I'd have okay days, but like I'd have really bad days. And it wasn't just like me feeling sorry for myself. There's also like a physical component to this. Like if when your gut is off, your brain is off. You know, so so it occurred to me because I was like, okay, like again, Googling furiously. Okay, so like, how can I heal my? What are different substances and things that I can use, natural remedies for healing the gut? And I slipped onto an article about healing the gut using cannabis oil. And I was like,
Okay.
oil. Like you hear about like edibles and like making it into foods and things. And though I've been a cook, a chef my whole life, I like never thought to like combine those two, like the blunts or the joints with the cooking aspect. And I was like, well, I can do that. Like I can do that, I think. So like I started kind of playing with that, and I started infusing um like cannabis flower into oil and putting it into capsules with like a dropper and like taking it that way, because I figured I need to get it as far down as I can if I'm trying to use this to heal my gut.
Wow.
And like that yielded like amazing results. Like
Wow.
that on top of everything else I was doing, I was like, oh, okay, like I'm coming back now. Like that was like another kind of turning point. So I was doing that for a while, but also I was realizing, I was like, oh, I'm getting kind of high too. Like this is kind of nice. Like you know, like oh, okay, like this has like a kind of a dual purpose. And then it's over the course of time, I was like, well, this is just oil, and I cook. Can't I just put this in food? So like I started putting it in different foods and see this start playing around, and that's how I started making edibles. This is like how that started.
Can you
And
okay, because you also have a business there, because we didn't mention that.
yeah, so yeah, so I started kind of like a small business called Sinclair Medibles, and the purpose of that business was to give people a both medicinal and enjoyable way to intake cannabis that wasn't smoking. You know, that you could use to actually truly heal yourself. So like my goal and the purpose was to use completely organic ingredients, no additives, no artificial anything, because this is I'm kind of taking the knowledge that I learned to heal myself and combining it with the cannabis aspect, with the weed aspect. And for me, like I was passionate about like giving people the option to not eat a freaking lollipop or like a Rice Krispie treat, you know, to have like a real wholesome food that they can actually enjoy, that wasn't just healthy, but like tasted amazing and felt amazing and would help them with their ailments. And again, I kind of leaned into that. I was like, oh, this is prior to like really diving into spiritual work. This is like back in 2000, like 17, 18, I guess, that I would have like really like dove headfirst into that. I think I started in like 2017 officially, but I'd been just playing with it before that. And again, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Like, this is what I'm going to do. Like, this is what I'm going to aim at. This is what I'm going to. And over the course of time, that just, you know, it's really kind of fizzled out. I still do it. I've started another company that's not medicated. That's called Bacon Buds, the Bacon Buds, and that's like the same concept, organic, vegan, completely natural, but also doesn't taste vegan. You know, you have those like those vegan stuff and those healthy things that like taste healthy. No, like I've been so incredibly passionate about making them both taste and feel good and like and have an experience, but also like not cause any interactions or reactions within your body. So like kind of parlayed into that. But anyway, so this is another thing that I kind of have been doing behind the scenes. Spiritual work for me has become kind of like the bread and butter. It's become kind of the thing that's me. And honestly, I understand now, especially just living it firsthand, but also receiving messages through now dozens of other people, that spiritual work for me is meant to be my kind of foundation, my groundwork, and like the things that I do. And there are many things even beyond cooking will be kind of built on top of that. But like for me, who I am as a person, spiritual work was meant to be my foundation, monetarily, spiritually, mentally, all that.
And you
Yeah.
just like kind of like slipped into that, right? It was not your plan from the beginning, from what
No.
I understood. And what
Yeah.
happened
So
then
it's
in 2020 when you like that was like the very yeah, like what happened in 2020 when you said earlier, and then we went back to India and all these things.
yeah. No, I'm
And
jumping
what
around. I'm
happened
sorry.
in no, that's fine, that's fine, that's perfect. But what happened in 2020 when you said like that you thought that you were going to go back to cooking, I think you said.
Oh yeah. Thank you for bringing me back there. So yeah, so in 2020, yeah. So I was like, okay, so the club closes, and I'm like, I guess I'm a cook. That's why. This is what's happening. So like, so I go
Yeah.
back to cooking. I start cooking at this nice Italian restaurant. My thought was like, oh, I get to learn new cuisine. I get to kind of sharpen my skills and blah blah blah, and also just kind of do something that's easy for me because I've been cooking for a while. Meanwhile, in the background, I'm doing the mediumship. Like I'm doing mediumship. I'm in the restaurant, like creating posts. Like like it's just because I felt also like I felt passionate about that. But I quickly realized when I was cooking, when I started this job, that I hated it. I hated it.
Okay.
Everything about it. Like it was. I was like for the fact that I wasn't cooking my own food, the fact that I couldn't really eat anything that was there because like my diet, the fact that the culture, the overall culture, like it really opened my eyes. I was like, oh, this isn't me anymore. I am a slave while I'm here. When the culture of being a chef or like behind the line cook or whatever is that everyone and everything else comes above you. You got to pee? No, you got to get the food out.
Oh
You're
wow.
hungry? No, you got to get the food out. Like you got to get the food out. You have to handle. You know what I mean? And like this
Yeah.
is the culture, like across the
Yeah.
board when it comes to
Yeah.
like restaurant culture. You know what I mean? And like there's a certain vibration that you have to be in to kind of like enjoy that or be okay with it. In my opinion, anyway, I'm just kind of speaking for myself. And I was so vehemently outside of that. I'd worked so hard to get to a point where it's like I love myself. I owe it to myself to give myself everything that I need when I need it. Like I'd worked really hard over the years to get to that point. And being in that environment was the exact opposite and the antithesis to that vibration. And I was like, I hate it. I hate it. And it was it was difficult for me because it was like I had to let a part of myself go. As ironic that is, like why not let that part of myself go? But like it becomes such an integral part of me that it was actually quite difficult to admit to myself that I can't do this anymore. That I can't be a cook anymore. Like not professionally, not behind the line, and not under anyone's terms other than my own. Like I can't do this anymore. And it was actually hard. I remember it being difficult, like in my heart, like 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 I had to kind of mourn myself, like that part of myself.
Wow.
But
Wow.
it wasn't until like I realized and like accepted like, okay, I'm here now, but I'm not here forever. Like it wasn't until that moment that like it instantly became easier to like work there. It was still miserable, but I was like, it wasn't like I didn't want to like scratch my eyes out. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, I'm here, but like it's okay. And it became easier and more pleasant and well, pleasant maybe not the word, but like it was easier. And soon after that, they just stopped calling me. They just stopped calling me in. So like they like, so first of all, it was fishy because like they gave me like the form to like the W-2 form to like do the tax stuff and whatever, and I did it. And like I'd come in every day and it's still over there on the shelf. And like every few days I'd be like, are you gonna process that? And like, oh yeah, we'll get to it. In the meantime, they're just giving me personal checks, and I'm like, well, it's not taxed, this is money, so like I'm not really gonna complain. Like, okay, like I'm getting paid. And but one day, like this is, mind you, this is 2020, so like this is the height of COVID, so like there's not a lot of people around, not a lot of people on the street even coming out to eat. And so I remember leaving one night, and they're like, hey, before you go, the owner was like, hey, before you go, just before you come in next week, just call us first. And I'm like, oh, okay, why? And he's like, well, because we haven't really been busy. We haven't had a lot of reservations, not really any reservations, really. And we're not sure if we're even going to need the help. And that was completely valid because I was like, well, that's true. Okay. I was like, all right. So like the following week I called in like, hey, you gonna need me? No, it's okay. No, you don't gotta come in. It's fine. I'm like, okay, could use that money, but okay, yeah, all right, fine. And then the following week, I do the same thing. Hey, no, it's okay, don't come in. No. So like the third week, and I'm like, they'll call me when they need me, like I'm not gonna keep calling like a beggar, and they never called me back. to this day, they never called me back. And like, meanwhile, in the mediumship circles, I'm getting these messages from specifically my great grandfather in spirit. He kept saying that that I need to be doing spiritual work for money. And I was like, I was so resistant to it, even though it was coming in like non-physically. I was like, I don't. Still, I was in that point where I was like, I don't. This is before kind of having that talk with shaman, and then that happened. So I'm like, okay, this is all I have. So I think if I don't take this as a sign to like try and jump into doing this professionally, I'm probably gonna suffer. So this is when I just decided, I was like, okay, fine. And I literally wrote a message on my Instagram. I was like, I'm charging now for my services, and like started off extremely cheap, extremely, because I'm still like I had to work into my nervous system.
I totally get that.
To like be able to like charge comfortably, but like, and just from there, like I just kind of kept like moving up, and then I started adding different services. So it started off at just mediumship. I was like, well, I've been doing psychic readings kind of incidentally all my life. So I was like, I added that, and I was like, well, I also do shamanic journeys. Like that's the thing I do. Did that. I was like, well, I also do Reiki. So like I just added in, and this is how kind of the current version of ancient made modern has come into existence.
Wow, now I know the whole story, or almost.
Yeah, most of it, almost all of it. Yeah.
Wow, that's really crazy. I would love to ask you, because for me it's like the one of the intentions for this podcast is like actually empowerment, like to share honestly about our own moments of crisis and what led to our transformation, and to, I would say, like to us becoming more authentic. And like this is like also a question, is that true for you? What I just said, like to become more like coming more into our authentic self. I mean, I don't want to like just throw that at you and like and because that's for you to decide if you became more authentic through this process. I'm just assuming. So, but
oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Like this whole process led me to who I actually am. Had I gone off on a different tangent in my life, I would have been so far removed from who I am at my core. I think like I needed these parts, like so much suffering, so much pain, but that was necessary, I believe, to be able to pick up, like collect all the lost pieces of myself that would have been left behind. Absolutely. I look back and it's like part of, there's still a part of me that kind of feels a little resentful that I had to go through all that, but at the same time, like I do know that without that I wouldn't have been able to come back home to myself. Like, as you said earlier, this process was perfectly designed to like plunge me into my feminine aspect. Something I don't think I would have been able to truly do without going through all the things that I went through. So yeah, and it was honestly like a long process of almost as if being burned alive. But that burning process burned away all of the outer layers that were unnecessary and not suiting me, and brought me to who I am and where I am now. So yeah, absolutely. It brought me to a place of empowerment.
Wow, that's a really strong description for that process, like being burned alive. It's also like interesting because it has like this process of being burned alive. Actually being burned alive is like has like an interesting meaning in as esoterica and spirituality, actually. Very, very transformative process. Of course I don't want to promote it. But,
Yeah, right.
but there are, like Jeanne d'Arc, or like what's her name in English,
Joan of Arc, yeah.
Joan of Arc, yeah, exactly. And yeah, like other spiritual figures have been running through that process. And it's also interesting because you described, or you said earlier that like that the I forgot the specifics, but when these things are being released into the bloodstream and then you're starting to I guess to have a fever, I guess, or that's how I understood it.
Yeah, like so what causes allergic reaction? And like for everyone listening, if you don't know this, people who have gluten intolerance, this is what's happening to you. The proteins from the gluten are leaking through the permeable lining of your intestine into your bloodstream, and your bloodstream is treating that gluten, for example, just as an example of anything that you could be having an allergic reaction to, as an invader. And when that happens, your body flips out because it should not be in the blood system, and it releases a bunch of histamines. The histamines are the things that create the allergic reactions: hives, swelling, itching, that kind of thing.
Super interesting. Super interesting. And so, like, for like, I want to like, because we have to come to a close at some point.
Oh,
But yeah, so I would love to hear, first of all, like, what would you like, what is there something that you really would want to share? And like, especially like regarding this, like, you know, like to for people who are maybe right now in this process of change, in this process of death and then rebirth. And yeah, like something that maybe for encouragement, but also like just, you know, like something that is important to you, what would you say to those who are in this process right now? Or something valuable that helped you, that's also like, yeah.
wow. What a profound question. I'm kind of putting myself back there, and then like maybe what I would have liked to hear. Maybe something like the challenges that you're experiencing right now are by design. And if this is the case, and it is by design, you are also designed to be able to not just simply overcome them, but to transmute what's happening to you into something new and something powerful, to alchemize it into something that'll become very useful, not just to you, but for other people around you. There are people that are going to need your medicine after you get through your process. So I guess another way, a roundabout way of saying, kind of like, keep going, because it's not just for you. You're not healing just for you, and not even just for the people around you, but also for your family line. The things that you're going through have directly to do with the people that have come prior to you. And that's a whole nother thing I could have gotten into regarding my family as well. But yeah, maybe that.
Nice. And is there anything else that you would want to add? I definitely also still want to talk about a little bit or one of my questions would be like, I mean, we talked about most of the things that you already did and are doing right now, offering right now. I definitely want to talk a little bit about the mediumship circle because that's how I got to know you, and I think it's a great thing to talk about. And like, you know, like get more people on board.
Yeah.
But also maybe also like I just while I was listening, I was like, is there anything new in the making maybe that you're pondering about and that you're already ready to share, or maybe not even something specific, but just something that yeah, something that you know that you want to get into at some point in your life, and that you want to share. You don't have to. I just thought of this question while I was listening to you and it just popped up. I was curious.
So the mediumship circles. So it's not that I'm particularly attached to mediumship. This is what I kind of tell people. Just for me, mediumship, it's when it comes to your psychic perception and understanding how to perceive non-physical information, it's kind of like being thrown into the pool, because you get thrown in and everything activates all at once. So instead of saying like, I want to develop my psychic seeing or my hearing, you kind of you get thrown in, and all of a sudden
You
you're
will
like,
talk to dead
okay,
people.
right. So yes, but also like all the different types of ways that you can perceive information kind of get activated all at once, so it doesn't become a focus on just one thing. So I like to start there, even if I'm just doing like a general mentorship when it comes to just tapping into your gifts. I usually start with mediumship, because once you are in that space, you come to understand, first of all, which of your psychic senses are more prominent and the strongest, but also naturally through natural progression, it just allows for the other things that you might not even have had awareness of to kind of open up and to blossom. So this is where the passion when it comes to teaching people mediumship comes from. It's more about like flipping people's psychic gifts on, flipping that switch on.
Yeah.
Because it's my belief that right now, more than ever in history, we as humans, like we need to be in tune with the non-physical. All of our attention is so much on the physical, the TV and all that. And like without the discernment that's spiritual practice or psychic senses gives us, we will be lost. You know, we'll be so easily taken down.
Yeah. Can I add something to that?
Ways. Yeah.
I just because that was like that really makes sense to me right now, and it's because I met a few children recently, and you know, like young children like 3 to 5 years old, and they watch a lot of TV, and I was like, really, sometimes they come to me and talk to me, and I was like, dude, what are you talking about? They, you know, like, but what they are watching is really upsetting, and also is implementing a certain kind of reality, or like, you know, like it's like, I think it opens them up to perceive things. It's a very important topic, obviously.
Yeah.
But it opens them up to perceive things also in the psychic realm in a very specific way, and also they are still very, very connected to that realm, so it starts to it's kind of creepy actually, and I was like, wow, you really have to freaking watch out what you let your children watch actually, and yeah, that we need training, not only not only the children, but we need it most, so we know how to what to watch out for, and how to work with children, and how to protect them also from, because I was really shocked, and I mean, if you know, like, I'm not the mother or something, if I'm not very I have not really a good connection to that child, I will not start some, you know, like something, obviously, because yeah, you can't actually, you cannot just start something. But yeah, that is like really makes a lot of sense. That was what I was thinking about when you said that we really need to open up and like train our awareness actually.
Exactly. Yeah, this is for me the mediumship. So it's interesting that the kind of segues into like your second question, because I mean I didn't have this answer on deck, but as you're talking, I'm like, oh yeah, I have this feeling. It's not really a passion or a drive yet, but I have this feeling that I will be helping other people connect with their gifts of all age ranges. You know, like I kind of have a feeling that I'll be working with some children as well, as well as older people. But like I have this I've had this knowing for a while, and it's come through different people's mouths, you know, other psychics and things, and I kind of like, well, you know, we'll see what happens. It's just something I haven't really connected to personally. But as time goes on, I think I'm realizing that like inevitably this is what's happening, and what an honor that would be anyway. You know, that I'd love to have a hand in helping the next generations kind of arm themselves in a way.
Yeah.
You know, because
and also
sorry.
So,
no, go ahead.
Sorry.
I'm good.
Yeah, because also I have like the feeling the generations, I mean, for me, I'm 40 now, and I was like, you know, like to crawl my way back into my, like, opening up my intuition, that was like heavy work. But I have the feeling the younger the generations, the easier it is right now, so like it's really also like really cool.
Yeah.
And then I'm actually also kind of like interested in that area, like working with children. But I'm also like, you know, like I'm like saying like I want to teach them spirituality, which of course is bullshit. Because I mean, I'm like just already like really excited about all the things they will teach me, because they have like, their imagination is just, their intuition is open. So yeah, I think that's quite an exciting field of work actually. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. I like that. I like that that's cool. I can imagine that. Awesome. All right. We will come to a close now. So first of all, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story.
Of course. Yeah.
I would also really love for you to maybe just shortly, how can people find you, and just maybe also like tell them, like give you a short overview again about the services you offer.
Yeah, so you can find me at ancientmademodern.com or ancient.made.modern on Instagram. Or you can email me at ancientmademodern@gmail.com. I provide mediumship readings, psychic readings, Reiki healings. Do not need to be close to you. They work from a distance. And shamanic, what I call shamanic Akashic healings, which are shamanic journeys into your Akashic records, which provide healing. Just to sum it up. But if you're looking for Akashic work, you're wanting to know things about your past lives, future lives, answers to burning questions, or solutions to like root causes of issues that you're going through, the Akashic work is likely for you. And yeah, this is where you can find me. I also do shamanic journeys. I've been doing less of those, but if you're wanting just kind of more informational and like kind of an immersive experience of just information, I also do shamanic journeys. I forgot I mentioned everything. Also,
And
the circles, is that what you're about to say?
yeah.
Yeah. The mediumship circles. So right now the current schedule is 1 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays and 7 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesdays. I host them on Zoom. You can reach out to me at any of those places if you're interested at all. The cost is $11 US. And yeah, we can go from there. I do all my scheduling manually. So if you're wanting to join in on a circle, just reach out and get this set up.
Yeah, I also just want to encourage you. It's really like, I don't know how to say this in English. I actually don't really know how to say it in German right now. But it's really like, if you want to, like if you've never done this before, this is a super safe and very comfortable space to just get into it and try. You don't need to be afraid. It's a lot of fun. You will always meet cool people, and you also get readings. So there's like actually only benefits.
Right.
And we have like
Right.
most of the time we also have like a lot of fun. So and I'm also often joining. So yeah, I love it. I just go there to meet cool people, to hang out, to hang out with people and the spirits.
Exactly. It's I just like doing them. They're fun. It's if you're both looking to expand on your gifts or like discover your gifts, but also like she said, kind of like have a safe, kind of lighthearted, fun space. I know some other circles they can be kind of stringent and like you can't do this or speak to this type of being. I just kind of like that, leave it loose, and you get who you get, and it's whoever comes forth is meant to come forth. And I always set the intention prior to the circle that only beings who are here for our highest good to enter. So there's never a worry about anything scary or dark or anything coming into the circle. So.
And if that even would be the case, there are enough people there to take care of that.
Right. If that ever happened, which it never has. Yeah.
No, never has. Yeah, awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Maurice. I will talk to you later or tomorrow.
All right. Yeah.
And yeah, so this was the third episode actually of BENU Rising podcast, and today with Maurice Sinclair and from Ancient Made Modern. And yeah, talk to you guys soon. Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.